Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with the juice. It's House of the Dragon prep time. We all know about all of the Targaryen kings and queens and the great lords and ladies, but today we are about to talk about one of the most mysterious characters in the history of House Targaryen, and one of the characters that excites me the most in terms of House of the Dragon. The thing about House of the Dragon is Fire and Blood is so rich and it has a ton of characters that aren't talked about at all. So today we are going to talk about Nettles. I've mentioned Nettles a ton of times, but I've never actually done an in-depth character video about Nettles. So I thought I would explain who Nettles is, I would tell you her story with all of the juicy details and the theories that surround her character. Was she Prince Daemon Targaryen's true love? Was she his daughter? Was she a witch? Was she a child of the forest? Hopefully, this video can shed some light on all of it. During the Dance of Dragons, the Targaryen civil war between the Blacks, those that supported Rhaenyra Targaryen, and the Greens, those that supported Aegon II, dragons fought dragons. They call it the dance, but really, the dance is just an elegant name of saying the dying of dragons because almost all the dragons died. Battles were fought, and the war waged on, and on Dragonstone, it was soon believed that the person who had the most dragons would win the war. It was on Dragonstone, in the shadow of Dragonmont, that something began called the Red Sowing. The calling for the Red Sowing went out by Rhaenyra's son, Prince Jacaerys Valerion. Prince Jacaerys vowed that any man who could master a dragon would be granted lands and riches. They would be dubbed a knight, sons would become a noble, daughters would marry lords, and the rider himself would have the honor of fighting beside the Prince of Dragonstone to throw down the pretender Aegon II. It was a very enticing offer, and the offer needed to be enticing to give men the courage to try to bend a dragon to their will. One thing all of this highlights is the Targaryens struggled with keeping their dicks in their pants, and bastards with the blood of Old Valyria were aplenty on Dragonstone. House Targaryen had ruled Dragonstone for almost 200 years, and bastards were born by the score. Although the Targaryens traditionally wed their sisters or cousins, the Targaryen men were known to be whores. They would sleep with the daughters and even wives of their subjects. Good Queen Alicent, wife of King Jaehaerys, had led the charge on abolishing the ancient right of the first night when Jaehaerys sat the Iron Throne. But before it was outlawed, it was practiced on Dragonstone more than anywhere else. The first night is the Lord's right, which basically means on your wedding night, your Lord has the right to have sex with you before your husband. I know, it's a barbaric ass law. Most everywhere else, the right to the first night was despised and resented, but on Dragonstone, the sentiment didn't seem to be the same. Targaryens were regarded as more gods than men. Brides that were banged by Targaryens on their wedding nights were envied, and bastards born of those unions were held above all others. These Targaryen bastards were said to be born of dragon seed, and in time were called the dragon seeds, or just seeds for short. But seeds grow, and House Targaryen wanted to reap what they had sowed. They had a war they needed to win, and they had dragons that needed riders. And so the Red Sowing began. 16 men lost their lives, about 50 were burned or maimed. Some of the dragons were older, and their old riders had died. Vermithor, Seasmoke, and Silverwing, they had all been ridden. They were tolerant of people, and they were easier to tame. They were the first dragons to be claimed by new riders. But then there were 3 wild dragons: Sheepstealer, Grey Ghost, and Cannibal. They were not tolerant of people, and they were not easy to tame. Sheepstealer was a notably ugly, mud-brown dragon that hatched when the old king was still young. He had a taste for mutton, swooping down on shepherds' flocks from Driftmark to the Windwater, but he didn't harm the shepherds, unless they tried to stop him from getting his lamb chops. Sheepstealer was a vicious, ill-tempered beast, and he killed more seeds than the 3 castle dragons, or the 3 dragons who had been ridden combined. Sheepstealer, the brown dragon, eventually bended his neck to a cunning and persistent small girl of 16, Nettles, also known as Nettie. Nettles was black-haired, brown-eyed, brown-skinned, skinny, foul-mouthed, fearless, and the first and last rider of Sheepstealer. Nettie brought Sheepstealer fresh slaughtered sheep every morning until Sheepstealer learned to accept and expect her. Apparently, Sheepstealer is treat motivated like my dog, Yuki. Later on, people will say it was sorcery that bound Sheepstealer to Nettles. So we don't know much about Nettles' parentage, but there are some clues and there are some theories that exist that might blow your mind. Mushroom says she was a bastard of uncertain birth born to a dockside whore. We do know that she doesn't have the traditional Valyrian look, but there are other people with Valyrian blood that don't necessarily look Valyrian either. Prince Baelor Breakspear, Rhaegar's daughter by Elia, also Jon Snow. But from what we know of Nettles' life, it wasn't an easy one. She grew up homeless, penniless, motherless in the streets of Spicetown and Hull, and her nose was scarred where it had once been sliced for thieving. But it does beg to question, how can a penniless, homeless girl afford to buy sheep to feed to a dragon every day? Was she really penniless? Or was there something bigger at play? The way she's described reminds me of like Arya on the streets of King's Landing. That's what Nettles feels like to me. However humble her beginnings, Nettles was now a dragon rider, which so few in the world can claim to be. Nettles first got to test her dragon in battle alongside Vermax and Prince Jacaerys and 3 other dragons at the Battle of the Gullet, one of the bloodiest sea battles in Westerosi history. After the battle, while the other siege drank and boasted of their victory, Nettles did not. She had flown with them and fought bravely, burned and killed as they did, but she had no celebrations. Her face was black with smoke and streaked with tears when she returned to Dragonstone. Nettles clearly was upset at what she had witnessed. Men burning and drowning, Vermax dying, Prince Jacaerys dying. It was a lot to handle. And unlike the White and the Hammer, Nettles was very upset. And I think this says a lot for her character and the kind of person that she was. When Rhaenyra and her dragon Syrax descended on King's Landing with her husband Daemon and his dragon Caraxes, Nettles was there, landing her dragon atop Visenya's hill. The other dragon seeds were there as well. King's Landing's defenses could not withstand 5 dragons. It was Nettles and Sheepstealer and the other seeds that helped Rhaenyra finally ascend those steps and sit the Iron Throne. But afterwards, there is mentions of conversations and debates about what the dragon seeds should be awarded. What should the Hammer be awarded with? What should the White be awarded with? But there is never any talks of Nettles. What should Nettles be awarded with? This could be likely because she's a woman. And I feel like that's just so fucking rich, Rhaenyra. This war is being had because Rhaenyra is denied her birthright because she's a woman. And yet all of the awards being discussed here are for men and men alone. Or maybe it has nothing to do with her gender. Maybe it's something else. So after some time, Daemon and Caraxes and Nettles and Sheepstealer end up leaving at King's Landing together to go find Aemon One-Eye and Vahagar. Vahagar was the biggest and the oldest dragon. The dragon Visenya had rode when she conquered Westeros alongside Aegon and Rhaenys. Caraxes, Daemon's dragon, was big and no stranger to war. But the only way Caraxes could defeat Vahagar would be with the help of Sheepstealer. 2 dragons are better than 1. So the entire time they were along the Trident, they never spent a minute apart. Daemon and Nettles ended up basing themselves in Maidenpool. Lord Mooten invited them to be his guest. At dawn every day, Caraxes and Sheepstealer with their riders flew from Maidenpool and scoured the riverlands above the clouds, searching for Vahagar and Aemon. They would return to Maidenpool at dusk. Mushroom tells us that Daemon fell in love with Nettles and had taken her into his bed, and that's why he kept her close to him. Everybody knows that Prince Daemon Targaryen was a whore, but could there be more to this? Well, the Maester at Maidenpool wrote the Chronicles of Maidenpool, and he says, the prince and his bastard girl supped together every night, broke their fast together every morning, slept in adjoining bedchambers, and the prince doted upon the brown girl as a man might dote upon his daughter, instructing her in common courtesies and how to dress and sit and brush her hair. He made gifts to her, an ivory-handled hairbrush, a silver looking-glass, a cloak of rich brown velvet bordered satin, a pair of leather riding boots as soft as butter. The prince taught the girl how to wash, and the maidservants who fetched her bathwater said he often shared a tub with her, soaping her back or washing the dragon stink from her hair, both as naked as their name days. While Nettles and Daemon were in Maidenpool, two of the other dragon seeds, the White and the Hammer, switched sides and no longer fought for Queen Rhaenyra. They were now supporting Aegon, and that betrayal undid Rhaenyra. In the throne room, she asked if the other seeds, Nettles and Sir Adam, might betray her. And the White Worm says, "The girl has already betrayed you, my queen. Even now she shares your husband's bed, and soon enough she will have a bastard in her belly." This pisses Rhaenyra off. She sends her men to arrest Sir Adam, but of Nettles she says this: "She is a common thing, with the stink of sorcery upon her. My prince would never lay with such a low creature. You need only look at her to know she has no drop of dragon's blood in her. It was with spells that she bound a dragon to her, and she's done the same with my lord husband." She sends a command to Maidenpool, to Lord Mouton, to kill Nettles, deliver her the head of the bastard girl who had been judged guilty of treason. When Lord Mouton gets this message, he's just shooketh. The Chronicles of Maidenpool says that he lost his voice and didn't regain it until he drank like 3 cups of wine. So Lord Mouton conveys this secret counsel, and they said it could be easily done, but they have doubts. Lord Mouton says that he has given the girl guest right, and if he did such a deed, Maidenpool would be cursed forever. And if he refuses the queen, he should be attainted and destroyed. So he really just has like an impossible choice to make. Prince Daemon is fond of the brown child, Lord Mouton's brother says. If you kill her, you must kill him. But Queen Rhaenyra forbid any harm come to Daemon. Nothing winds up coming of it. They ignore the letter. They act like they never receive it. But the Maester of Maidenpool made his way to Daemon and Nettles as they ate their supper and showed Daemon the queen's letter, which Daemon called a queen's words and a whore's work. At dawn the next day, Prince Daemon helped Nettles saddle Sheepstealer one last time. It was her custom to feed him each day before she flew. Dragons bend easier to their rider's will when full. That morning, she fed him a black ram, the largest in Maidenpool, slitting the ram's throat herself. Her riding leathers were stained with blood when she mounted the dragon, and her cheeks were stained with tears. They spoke no words to each other, no goodbyes, no farewells. But as Sheepstealer flew high into the clouds, Caraxes raised his head to the sky and gave a scream that shattered every window in Jonquil's tower. Nettles turned her dragon toward the Bay of Crabs and disappeared in the morning mist. Prince Daemon never returned to Rhaenyra. He left Maidenpool for Harrenhal in hopes that his nephew, Aemon One-Eye, would show his face. And Aemon One-Eye did show his face. And Daemon and Aemon fought on Dragonback above the God's Eye, and they both died. Daemon stuck Dark Sister through Aemon's good eye and out the back of his skull. But both riders and dragons died, although Prince Daemon's body was never recovered. Many have suggested that he didn't die, but he left with Nettles. But after the dance, and during the reign of Aegon the Dragonbane, high in the Vale, Sir Robert Rowan finds something interesting while he's struggling through deep snow. As they're traveling in the Vale, their baggage trains are being hit by the mountain natives, or the mountain clans, or the mountain wildlings. They're descendants of the first men that were driven from the Vale by the Andals thousands of years ago. The mountain clans, or mountain wildlings, are divided into separate tribes or clans. The Painted Dogs, the Burned Men, the Black Ears, the Moon Brothers. One night, Sir Robert Rowan's party found a cave mouth, and they wanted to use it as a shelter. Bones were littered all over the cave, and eventually they woke the dragon that slumbered within it. 16 men died in the fight. Many more suffered burns before the angry brown dragon took wing and fled deeper into the cave with a ragged woman clinging to its back. This is the last known sighting of Nettles and Sheepstealer recorded in the annals of Westeros. However, the wildlings of the mountains still tell tales of a fire witch who once dwelled in a hidden vale far from any road or village. One of the most savage of the mountain clans came to worship her, the storytellers say. Youths would prove their courage by bringing her gifts and were only accounted men when they returned with burns to show that they had faced the dragon woman in her lair. This is corroborated in the World of Ice and Fire. It even matches the timeline. It says specifically after the Dance of Dragons. This practice might have originated in the years after the Dance of Dragons, some maesters believe, when an offshoot clan of the Painted Dogs were said to have worshipped a fire witch in the mountains, sending their boys to bring her gifts and risk the flames of the dragon she commanded to prove their manhood. The offshoot of the Painted Dogs is the Burned Men, and this isn't the first time Nettles has been referred to as a witch. Rhaenyra says that she's a witch, that she stinks of sorcery. So there are theories that exist, but there is some even crazier theories. So there is a theory that exists that ties Nettles to the Children of the Forest, and more specifically, Leaf. The earliest mention I have found of this was by a user named Ibsen from Ibn on Westeros.org in 2014. There are several clues that Nettles could be Leaf or a child of the forest. The first clue is in her name, Nettles. Nettle is a thing of nature. It is a plant, or by definition, a herbaceous plant that has jagged leaves covered with stinging hairs. That's superficial, not a smoking gun. But Rhaenyra did accuse Nettles of sorcery. Out of all the ways that people have tamed dragons, none were in the same way that Nettles did. Nettles would actually slit the throat of an animal and feed it to her dragon before flight. It's very weird, and it's unlike anything else we have seen. It also very much resembles blood sacrifice, which we know is big in the Children of the Forest culture. There is also the whole cave thing. Nettles happens to be sheltering in a cave big enough for a dragon. The Children of the Forest also shelter in caves and secret tree towns. Bran is in the cave with Bloodraven, but Arianne Martell also finds an abandoned cave from the Children of the Forest. Leaf is the only child of the forest who can speak the common tongue. But even more curious is what Leaf tells Bran. I was born in the time of the dragon, and for 200 years I walked the world of men to watch and listen and learn. I might be walking still, but my legs were sore and my heart was weary, so I turned my feet for home. So the timeline does add up. Leaf was among them, walking the human world during the Dance of Dragons. Leaf could actually be Nettles. Nettles could be Leaf in a glamour. And that would explain her name, her ability to tame a dragon without being a seed of the dragon. Valyrian magic is rooted in fire and blood. The Children of the Forest magic seems to work similarly. Obsidian, aka frozen fire, and blood. It's likely all one magical source in Westeros and Essos. The mediums seem to be the same, and we know the Valyrians had horns and other ways to bend dragons to their will, which is all likely ancient Children of the Forest magic. And that would explain why she smelled like sorcery, if that's true. And it could also explain why the notorious womanizer Prince Daemon Targaryen was so smitten with her. Although it wouldn't be the first Targaryen prince to trade everything in for a woman that descends from the Children of the Forest. Prince Duncan traded his birthright for Jenny of Oldstones with the flowers in her hair. But if that's too much conspiracy theory for you, she could just be a dragon seed that didn't look like a dragon seed, because we have Targaryens that don't necessarily look like Targaryens. There are also theories that Nettles is actually the daughter of Daemon Targaryen. Right, I know, weird. Nettles is about 16 years old during the Red Sowing, so if she was his daughter, that would mean he fathered her while he was warring in the Stepstones. And that's why the Maesters of Maidenpool says that he dotes on her like a daughter. And he also calls her Prince Daemon's bastard, or his bastard girl, as if she's his possession or child. But all of this falls apart for me when we get to the part of them bathing together, naked as their name day. I don't think a father and daughter would bathe together naked. But then again, can we believe everything that the Maester of Maidenpool has written down in this book? I really like the idea of Nettles being a fire witch that is worshipped in the Vale. It is very interesting to me because I find it very odd that Aemon One Eye was enchanted by the Witch Queen of Harrenhal, Alice Rivers, and then Daemon was enchanted by the fire witch Nettles. And both of these enchantmentical romances happen in the Riverlands, and both men and their dragons presumably die on the God's Eye fighting each other. Were bigger forces at play? I'm not sure. But out of all of these theories, what theory do you believe? I cannot wait to see Nettles in the House of the Dragon. I cannot wait to see the mystery unfold before us. But what do you think of Nettles? What do you think? What theory do you like? As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone that supports me on Patreon. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and join the Sweet Summer family. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.